All right, book brats, it's time for a full summary of the book Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Also, if you would like to support me or this channel, I'm on Patreon now. The link is in the description. So let's just start at the beginning and go from there. By the way, spoiler alert. So we left off in the last story with Xaden Spearmint becoming a White Walker. And we pick up this story with Violet in denial. I used to call her Violin Soaring Fail, but I feel like she redeems herself in this book, so I'll call her by her normal name, Violet. And she wants to figure out a way to save Xaden Spearmint. They currently have him stashed away like he's Old Yeller, and Travis is just waiting to find out whether or not he has hydrophobia. Anyway, he's currently in prison with Jack Harlow, who's down there like, what's poppin'? Then we cut to 2 weeks later. Violet is out flying, presumably looking for some more White Walkers with the rest of her gang. We have Riddick and, Then they go back to Dragonwarts to see Sawyer. Sawyer actually lost his leg fighting in a battle in the last book. But while they're visiting him, they discover that White Walkers have invaded the castle. Things are picking up pretty quickly in this book. Anyway, everybody goes off to fight the White Walkers, which leaves Sawyer in the hospital bed like he's Ron Weasley whenever Harry and Hermione use the Time Turner in Prisoner of Azkaban. So they're all out killing these White Walkers who are disguised as scribes. Apparently they're all there to free Jack Harlow, so they go down to where he is and he's like, what's poppin'? But luckily Xaden Spearmint is down there with them, so he just kills all of them with his shadow tickles. Side note, I bet Xaden's looking pretty hot in this book, because whenever somebody goes dark in the movie, their hot scale just goes off the freaking chart. Also, Xaden doesn't have red eyes like the rest of the bad people. Apparently he's been fighting against this sickness and hiding his bloodshot eyes like he's a pothead at a job interview. But because he is a White Walker, he can actually feel the presence of other White Walkers when they're in the area. What? Then Violet meets with the council at Dragonwarts, and they want her to recruit the 7th dragon breed to help them fight all the bad people. Violet actually has some demands, but they don't care. Then we cut to later when Violet finally goes to sleep. And then she wakes up next to Xaden, and they start getting freaky dicky. But then Xaden stops because he's saving himself for the Lord or something. In reality, he stops because he's a White Walker and he doesn't want to hurt Violet. And I'm thinking, maybe she's into it. Just throw it out there, man. Then Violet has a chat with Mirror and Renan, which is her sister and brother. And they talk about how the wards will only last for a few more months. And then they hand something vague to Brennan and he freaks out for some reason. And then we cut to the Dragonwarts cadets bickering with the Hippogriff Riders. Apparently the cadets don't like the Riders and they don't want them in their school. You don't belong here. So it's basically like the plot of Remember the Titans, but without the racism. Then one cadet challenges Dane to a fight because Dane is all like, one love, brother, we all bleed red, let's come together. But then Mama Violet steps in, saves Dane's life. Not Violet's mama. She dead. I mean like Mama Violet as in like Queen Violet. Or, Slay Queen Violet. Let's move on. Then one of the teachers comes out and breaks up the whole fight. Also, Violet and Dane share a little bit of eye contact during this whole endeavor, and Xaden gets jealous, and I'm thinking, what are you setting up, Rebecca? And then we learn that this peace treaty that they're all trying to make between the cadets and the Riders is basically a no-go. So Violet decides that she's going to have to commit treason to protect them. As you do. Then Xaden makes her promise him that if he goes too far, she will either kill him or have him killed. And she's like, you'll never go too far with me, I promise. And I'm thinking, this is going to come back to bite you, girlfriend. Anyway, so Violet's going to commit treason with the rest of the gang during the night, except for Xaden, because she doesn't want to get him involved. So they grab one-legged Sawyer because apparently he can change the material of objects, and they go do their thing. They basically need to go alter a rock so that the Hippogriff Gryffindor Riders can use magic. Anyway, this is going to be very difficult. So of course they do that pretty easily. Then the next day, there's a council meeting. And they're divvying up all these Hippogriff Riders among the cadets and their wing leaders like it's a freaking bill at the end of a meal. And then Father Atos comes in. Or as I like to call him, Father Toast. Because I was making my notes and I do all these notes through speak-to-text. And I said Father Atos and my phone thought I said Father Toast. So that's just his name now. Anyway, so Father Toast comes in and charges Violet with treason. Because she altered the rock stuff. Also, Father Toast is the new commanding general of the entire Dragonwarts. Gotta hate this guy. It's not because he's a good evil character like a Varish or a Joffrey or a Voldemort. He's just inconvenient, like a speed bump on a major highway. Or like when your coffee goes cold so you want to pour it out to get some new, fresh, hot coffee, but there's always a bead of coffee that runs down the side. Now you gotta wipe it off. How do you avoid that? Anyway, Father Toast sends all of them to some outpost somewhere to do something, but it's not good because they could die. So they go there. And while they're there, Violet has a nightmare. By the way, she has nightmares all the time in this book, and there's a reason at the very end, but we'll get there. And the next morning, they're told to go to some small village that just got attacked by White Walkers. So they decide that they're going to go save the village. So they arrive, they start killing the White Walkers, the Wyvern, all the bad people. But then Violet gets stuck in a tornado, like this is Twisters or something. And then Terran, the daddy dragon, dies. But not really. He just kind of gets hurt for a little bit. And then this dude named Garrick shows up and tells Violet that Zaddy's spearmint has gone absolutely feral because she left him at Dragonwarts. Also, we find out that Garrick's second signet is moving quick. And then this silver-haired, foxy White Walker Venom lady shows up. Smash. And her name is Theophany. More like the off on me. Okay, that's enough. Anyway, she wants to ask Violet some questions. And she asks her about the Erid. And I'm thinking, what is that? Apparently it's the name of the 7th dragon breed that Andarna is. Anyway, hot White Walker lady says that she wants Andarna, but Violet's like, I don't remember where I put her, like she's her car keys or something. So Theophadumi leaves, and then Violet goes back to Dragonwarts with the rest of the gang. Then Father Toast This is so stupid. Then Father Toast tells Garrick and Zaddy that they need to go somewhere to do something. But before he leaves, Violet and Zaddy get fixing to be freaky. By the way, how are you going to have a slow burn in a relationship that's already established? So Xaden leaves, and then classes resume. I guess this really is Hogwarts. Who cares if there's an ancient monster running through the castle, petrifying students, writing vague messages in blood on walls? We have a potions class to attend to. Anyway, V goes down to question Jack Harlow, and he's like, what's poppin'? But she doesn't learn much through this whole thing other than the fact that there is no cure for becoming a White Walker. And then Zaddy Spearmint comes back to school and becomes a professor. And Violet's like, ooh, grody, a professor, now we can't date. What? Really? I thought that would make it hotter. V? Everybody's got their own kinks, I guess. Apparently she said that because there's a rule in the Dragonwarts handbook that says you can't date professors or whatever. But Xaden says, I don't care, we're gonna do it anyway. But then Father Toast comes in and says, no you're not. I hate that guy. Then Professor Zaddy is training, and then he gets challenged by some students, so of course he puts a stop to that pretty quickly. And then Violet has a tussle with Zaddy on the mat. Come on. But they're in front of the whole school, so he just wraps them both in shadows and starts making out with her. Nice. Then the next day, the gang is all together talking about how powerful Zaddy is. And then they mention how they're worried because some students aren't manifesting their signet, and apparently if you don't manifest your signet in a certain amount of time, you explode. Kind of like how college students feel in general if they go too long without... never mind. Also, Violet is trying to work with Dane to steal some of her father's books or something that are now in Daddy Toast's office. But apparently she can't go with Dane to retrieve them because there's a bloodline or whatever around the office. So now she has to trust Dane to get the things that she needs. So he does it. Slow clap for Dane. Then this dude named Halden shows up, who apparently is Violet's ex. Oh snap. Then Xaden gets jealous and just punches Halden with his shadows. As you do. Then they all go somewhere to look for something. While they're at this random place looking for whatever they're looking for, they get attacked. This dude named Professor Grady is burned alive. And then this chick who probably deserved it in the first place gets skewered by a wyvern tusk or talon or wing, I don't know, something sharp. Her name was Aura, and apparently she didn't have the aura to survive. Get it? Because... Then they find a note from Theophany. Smash. Apparently she knew that Violet was going to be there. She knows everything, probably, like how to please a man. Anyway, then we learn that Riddick can freeze water inside of an orange, which means that he can freeze water inside of people, which basically makes him Mr. Freeze. By the way, throughout this whole book, Violet is trying to accomplish 3 things. She's trying to find Andarna's family, find a cure for Zaddy, and collect missing books and notes from her dead father. So she grabs her band of unlikely heroes and goes to do one of those 3 things. And they go to see this dude named Takaris, who's from the last book. Apparently he and Violet made a deal together that I don't remember what it was, but there was a deal and they're going to go see him now. While they're there, they chat and they bicker and they have a conversation and who cares. Then they need to go somewhere else, and this somewhere else is called Deverelli. By the way, every time I read Deverelli, all that went through my mind is the Disney mice singing Cinderella, Cinderella. But in order to get to Cinderella, they have to lose their magic for some reason. But in losing their magic, Zaddy's White Walker-ishness isn't hounding him as hard. Come on. Anyway, while they're in Cinderella, somebody tells Violet that her dad left a bunch of books there. And then there's this whole thing about how somebody on this island thinks that Xaden is actually Dane because Violet's dad talks so much about Dane and how she would end up with him, and everybody just laughs about it because it's so funny. And then at some point they all leave with a bunch of books, or tomes as they call them, but unfortunately they're all passcode locked, like they're a freaking iPhone or something. Does it have facial recognition, Violet? Do you share your father's facial features? Then Violet and Xaden finally Smash. Oh, and it's a good one too. But they're interrupted by the whole gang who are waiting on the other side of the door like this is a college party and the lonely kids are just trying to listen in. And then Violet's old flame gets kidnapped, so they gotta go figure that out now. So they go to try to get him back from this king. So they're like, please give him back, and he's like, no. And then he stabs the old flame's hand. And then the king brings out some white panthers and the head of Halden's guard, and they just start eating it. I'm thinking this is some Game of Thrones stuff at this point. Then he orders everybody to die except for Takaris, and I was like, why is Takaris? What island are we on right now? So they all fight, and then Xaden releases his evil shadow magic and kills a bunch of people. Afterwards, the king is like, oh, hey guys, I was just messing around. Let's work this out. Come on, help me out here. So they figure that out, and then they go back to school. But Xaden has to distance himself because his pot-smoking eyes are too much at this point. Apparently he's getting worse, and they really need to find a cure. Or not, because like I said earlier, he's probably looking really good right now. Then some random second year turns into a White Walker while they're all in wrestling class. Then the gang goes to another island to do something else. And at this island, they all have silver hair, like it's a retirement resort or something. Anyway, while they're there, they have to fight some people to gain access to this court that they need access to. So they win their little combat. Dane gets injured. Violet defeats what she didn't know was the queen of this place. And the queen's all like, you have fought well. I would like some of your dragons. I don't know why she talks like that, but apparently that's canon for me now. And then they talk for a little longer. Violet's like, oh, I'll think about this offer. And then she freaking leaves. And then they go to a new island to talk to new people. Kill me. Xaden's mom is there for some reason, and they all have dinner together. How sweet. Someone suggests that Xaden marry this chick named Hot Cat, and of course Violet doesn't like that, and neither does Xaden, and everybody starts bickering. That's what moms are good for, by the way, telling you who you should be with in front of the person you're currently with. There's also this guy named Ferris, who I guess is Xaden's mom's hubby. Anyway, he has poisoned the food, and I don't remember why he poisoned the food. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm the problem. I get that, but nevertheless, he poisoned the food. Unfortunately, they find out it's been poisoned after Garrick eats it, so he just goes out instantly. And Violet's like, give us the antidote. And Ferris is like, no. And Violet's like, well, we poisoned your tea. And he's like, still no. So then everybody starts freaking out and fighting. Riddick gets stabbed by a chef in a back room somewhere. And I'm thinking the whole time, Rebecca, if you kill off Riddick, I will freaking riot. But he doesn't really get stabbed. It's just his jacket. So Riddick is like, Chef Boyard, don't. And he starts punching him in the face. And the whole time I'm thinking, let him cook. And then Violet goes full on freaking queen boss, gets the antidote, strikes up a deal with Ferris, and then they leave the island. And they go to another area with new people. But apparently this place is happy to see them, so there's a change there. And apparently there's wisps of magic on this island, and Violet can feel it calling in the air tonight, and I'm thinking, oh lord. And they meet this chick named Calixta, which is essentially like a cocktail of a bunch of names, isn't it? And she says, hey, let's all play a card game. So Violet's like, what are we thinking? Skip-Bo? Uno? Cards Against Humanity? But basically the game is just pick a card and get a crap gift like some sort of backwoods secret Santa. Dane gets a slap in the face, Riddick gets a kiss, somebody gets a random cat, and the rest of the gifts are just junk. Like when your grandma knits you a sweater but it doesn't fit because in her mind you're still 7 years old. Grandma, I'm 35! And then someone gets the gift of living out the first line of the song Shivers by Ed Sheeran. I took an arrow to the heart. But they can't react because if they do, they can't join forces with this weird group of people. So they're just like, oh well, business is hard sometimes. Also, the cat they got from this group of people is now named Broccoli. That's not even a joke. That's really what it's named. It is kind of cute though, so don't judge me. But even if you did, who cares? You think you're better than me? Then soon after that, the Erid dragons that they've been looking for actually find them. And Violet can hear all of them talk in her head, which is weird because normally you only talk to dragons that you're bonded with, but not here. And then we cut to story time with Andarna. And it's freaking adorable. She tells the big daddy dragons everything that happened in the first 2 books, like a kid who comes home from school excited to tell his parents everything that happened on their first day. Hey Andarna, while you're at it, can I get a printable copy of this story? Because I'm confused AF from this book. Anyway, the big daddy dragons get mad at Andarna and the group because they've been involved in war and apparently they are pacifists. Pacifist dragons. Okay. That's like being a vegan Viking. And then they mention Violet's second signet. What is it? They don't say. But the dragons do say that there is no cure for Xaden. We all saw that coming, by the way. Then the dragons say they won't help them, they disown Andarna, and then they high dragon tail it out of there. Freaking jerks. How dare they give Andarna anything other than good vibes? What is happening right now? Then Riddick finds out that Xaden is a White Walker, and at this point, I thought he already knew. So that just tells you how good this book is written. Or how dumb I am. Anyway, he gets mad and then makes Violet promise him a specific cutoff time for when Xaden goes too far. So she's like, when he hurts me. I'm assuming you mean outside the bedroom, because some of these scenes. Then they all go home and they discover that the queen is dead. Then they get a letter from Theophany, smash. And now it's just Back to class. Who cares that Voldemort just killed a student in a tournament they shouldn't be playing in the first place? We got water goblets to transfigure. Then conversations are had between everybody about how to defeat the White Walkers once and for all. Then Violet tells the rest of the gang that Xaden is a White Walker. Once again, I thought they knew. I'm the problem, I guess. Then school stuff, training stuff, talking stuff, blah, blah, blah. Violet eventually has another nightmare. And then Violet gives Xaden an onyx wrist cuff for his birthday, and she's like, I think you would look great in these. We can roleplay. And then they find out that the wards are actually weakening. Thought we already knew that, but okay. Then everybody has a debate about whether or not they should have open borders. And I'm thinking, am I reading about America right now? A guy named Lynx becomes a shadow daddy. Xaden resigns as professor. Also, there's a place named Llewellyn in this book, but there's also a person named Llewellyn, and there's no space in between the two differences. Like at one point, Xaden tells Violet, hey, I'm needed in Llewellyn. And then 2 paragraphs later, Llewellyn is talking, and I'm thinking, okay, didn't see that coming. The whole thing is a cruel joke, and I'm the problem again, probably. Anyway, then Xaden leaves, and some time passes, but he comes back in the middle of the night, goes directly to Violet's room, and worships her. Take me to church, I worship like a dog. Then they both have nightmares about the sage. And it turns out they've been sharing the same nightmare, which leads Xaden to believe that Violet's second signet is dreamwalking. I remember thinking, oh, Inception. Neat. Watch out for Leonardo DiCaprio, Violet. I hear he likes him young. It's also punishable by death. Why not? And then they're under attack. Again, Theophany shows up. Smash. Taryn gets injured, and there's a lot of fighting going on. And then the jerk face Erid show up to power the ward stone so everybody's safe. And I'm thinking, hey, that's cool, but you owe Andarna a freaking apology. But the dragon says he only did it so he could take Andarna back with him. No. So she breaks the bond she has with Andarna and then goes back with the jerky dragons. I cried, by the way. You're a grown man. Shut up, Dad. Then Violet mourns for a while, which is totally understandable because Andarna is life. Next, we find out that Violet's dad dedicated her to the dunes or something like that. And that's super important for the story. I wish I could give you all the information, but here we are. Anyway, there's this whole thing about stuff and prophecy and white hair and the dunes and kill me now, please. Then Xaden tells Mira that he is in fact a White Walker, and she gets super angry and storms out. Later, Violet has another nightmare, and then Theophany delivers a message. Smash. Basically, the message is, come to me now. And I'm thinking, I volunteer as tribute. She also has stolen Mira. So a bunch of them go to save Mira, and they bring Jack Harlow with them. So they get there, they start chatting with Theophany, and then Theophany slits Mira's neck. Didn't see that coming. Then they heal her. I did see that coming. Also, Dane is a big reason why Mira gets healed because he helps Sloane channel all of her healing powers somehow into Mira. He basically goes full-on boss daddy and makes it all happen, which is another reason why Dane is not a terrible character. And then Violet fights Theophany. Smash. And then we switch POVs for a couple of chapters between Rye and Imogen. In one of these chapters, Riddick actually freezes the inside of a wyvern, and I'm like, sweet. There's a bunch of fighting going on everywhere, and then all of a sudden, Xaden shadow-gasms everywhere. Then Andarna comes back. Yay! And then Violet kills Theophany, which is very unfortunate for me because I believe deep down that I could have fixed her. Okay, smash. Rest in peace. Then we switch to Xaden's POV, and apparently there's this dude named Pancheck, which, by the way, sounds like you're taking inventory in your own kitchen. Pan? Check. Anyway, Pancheck turns out to be a White Walker traitor. Then someone important turns into a White Walker. Who, you ask? Nobody knows, and it's a big point of contention, and people online, I would like to know as well, but the book ends too abruptly, and then he shadowgasms and kills a bunch of people. Then we cut to Violet waking up randomly with a rock on her finger and a new husband with 0 memory, like this is some weird weekend in Vegas nonsense. Apparently she and Xaden got married, but now he's gone. There's also missing dragon eggs, a missing Garrick, dead commanders, but she doesn't remember any of it because Imogen went full on Hermione and gave her the old obliviate. And then the book just ends. Side note, if you read the physical copy, the last sentence ends on the bottom of the page, which makes you flip to the next page and discover nothing. That's a cruel joke, editors. Long story short, this was a tough one to get through. Not because of the story, though. I love the story. It's just pieced together like somebody who bought a new Lego set and tried to replicate it from the picture alone rather than the directions. I don't know, it felt all over the place and very confusing, but I also didn't do a reread of the first 2 books when I read this. Taking all that into account, I'm going to give it a 3.8. And stay tuned for the next video.